another episode of the Mom Game, Sweet 16 edition of the Mom Game. Julie, we're all grown up, kind of, right?
Kind of. We're getting there. Yes. It's a big birthday when you turn 16. We can drive.
It is. So I am at Eagle Mountain Lake, where I've been spending a significant amount of time.
I'm so jealous.
In order to keep my sanity. You are back at home recovering from a procedure. First of all, How are you feeling? I don't know how much you want to divulge, but how are you doing?
Thanks. No, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good, actually. I feel pretty much back to normal. I did have a surgery last Thursday, and I don't care talking about it. I've talked about everything on this whole journey, and I touched on it with Donnie, but like anytime I talk about it with dudes, it gets weird. So I didn't say the full thing. But anytime you talk about anything with boobs with guys, like it automatically gets weird. They don't know what to say or do. And I understand because they don't have them. But
boobs and menstrual cycles, Julie. Those are it's kryptonite.
It's a good way to make them squirm, isn't it? And they're like, oh. So I obviously had the breast cancer, the double mastectomy. The double mastectomy was 6 years ago. I had reconstruction after that, like a year later, where they like blah blah. They crafted like some new boobs, if you will, after having like a year of expanders, which were just placeholders that sucked. So everything's been fine since then, but I had a rupture on one side randomly. Like it's not like one day it just boom exploded and I like felt it, but I just felt like something was weird, and there was like a scary moment there where I had to get an MRI and blah blah blah, but they saw that it was just a ruptured implant. So then I had to wait until COVID crap was over, or not over, but the hospitals were starting to treat procedures like this. So I was able to get the procedure done last Thursday. So they just took both of them out and put new fresh ones in. And now just recovering. They have these drains, but that's the grossest part, Emily. Like they have these little drains that are coming out of my body. Have you seen those, or did you get those?
I didn't have to have the drains,
okay.
But I've had friends that have and have helped them with their recovery, and it seems awful. So sorry, and I'm glad you're doing well.
Yeah, thank you. No, everything's good, and once I get those out, I think it'll be like a day or two, and then I should be back to normal.
Well, good. Well, we're glad you're okay. I'm glad to be back with you. Next week we'll be together at My Med Spa in Plano.
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited about that. Our first remote show. So My Med Spa next Tuesday. Are we Tuesday or Wednesday?
Thursday, I think. Yeah.
Oh, Thursday.
It's all the same.
Next Thursday, which is Thursday the 25th, we will be at My Med Spa. Check out Twitter and
I'm so excited.
Our Instagram and Facebook pages for details on the times and all the logistics and stuff like that. If you want to come see us tape a show. And speaking of taping shows, podcasts, we couldn't do it without sponsors like My Med Spa and, of course, Cowden Cosmetic Dentistry, who has been with us since day one. And this episode and all of the episodes, all 16 of them so far, have been brought to you by Cowden Cosmetic Dentistry. And as Texas continues to open back up, don't forget that Dr. Anna Cowden and her staff can now handle all your dental needs. Cowden Dentistry can even handle your cosmetic dental needs. Have you put off exams or cleanings? Book an appointment now, and for a limited time, new patients will receive a free sonic toothbrush. And no matter what procedure you need, your comfort, safety, and safety of the staff will be their primary concern. So just call Cowden Cosmetic Dentistry today at 972-380-6223, or you can email them at info@cowdencosmeticdentistry.com. And I noticed,
this is the toothbrush.
You're holding my toothbrush hostage.
I am. It's because you're at the lake for freaking ever.
Good point.
But yeah, this is what it looks like. So if you call in and make an appointment, I'm sure while supplies last, you will get one of these, and they're really cool. Kelly and I have both been using them, and it took me a little bit to get used to it, but now I am, and I really like it. You feel like you're much more efficient with brushing your teeth. So it's good. So
you haven't used mine though, right?
Well, yeah, I used it like 4 times, and then I just put it back in, and I figured that was fine. I mean, we're like besties. It's a podcast thing, no?
Good as new, right?
Yeah, just a few times.
So here's a question for you.
Okay.
I totally was not anticipating going this direction.
No,
Have
yeah.
you ever been in a situation where Kelly has had to use your toothbrush? Where are we on this? Like where he forgot on a trip, or do you go to the gift shop and buy a new one? Or I mean, have you ever shared your toothbrush with your significant other?
You know what? I would really need to ask him because I'm suspicious that it's happened a couple times where he used mine and didn't tell me. You know, like it's really creepy when you walk over to your toothbrush and it's wet and you didn't do it.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think that he's done that often, but I do think there's a couple times. And I'll admit, like I've had to use his before because if we're in a situation where we can't get to ours, if I can't get to mine, if I forgot it and we're on a trip or something, I feel like I would rather use his than not use one at all. Like I think the risk of using my husband's is less than the risk of not brushing my teeth because I hate not brushing my teeth. I can't sleep. Like I overbrush. Right. So I don't know. What about you guys?
Not that I know of, but I am like, I mean, Mike's pretty weird about stuff like that. So it would have to be a pretty dire situation. But when faced with it, like either you brush your teeth with your husband's toothbrush or you don't brush your teeth at all.
Right.
I definitely go because usually, let's think about it. If this is happening, it's probably happening late at night, and there's probably nothing you can do about it at that point.
Right.
So if faced with that conundrum, I'm definitely going with using his toothbrush. Okay, so now what if you and I, girls trip, just me and you, you forget. We've had a couple bottles of wine. It's been a great night. We're ready to take it back to the house.
This is sounding kind of intimate. Okay.
You know what I mean?
A couple bottles of wine is going great. We're heading back to the hotel.
They're going great.
Love you, Em, but I wouldn't use your toothbrush, and I wouldn't probably participate in anything else.
For the record, I'm not propositioning you on anything for the love.
Okay. The setup. It was just the setup.
I would expect me to take us down that road. I would never have expected you to take us down that road.
Technically you did. But no, I feel like unless I was like really hammered and just didn't know what I was doing, which has happened sometimes, not lately, but that's the only way that I would use your toothbrush. I just feel like it's different with your husband because you're married to them and like in theory you kiss. So it's kind of the same.
Yeah, in theory. In theory. Oh, yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Okay. That's hilarious. Okay, so Father's Day is coming up. It's on Sunday as we tape our Sweet 16 episode of the Mom Game.
Yes. Father's Day is coming up, and that reminds me, we are like sponsor city. We have one more new sponsor that I just have to use as we kind of transition to Father's Day because when this comes out, there will still be quite a few days if you need to go grab your Father's Day gifts. We're so happy to also have Noble Vines Wines as a sponsor of this show. Super easy to find their wines. Just go out to probably your regular grocery store where you can find them and pick one up. They have all kinds of wines that I'm sure your husband or your dad will like. It's very delicious. All of it. It's actually Kelly's favorite cab. They have the 337 Cabernet, the 446 Chardonnay, 667 Pinot Noir, the new Marquis Red Blend, and more. I love the Rosé. Right now, I also love that 2017 337 Cabernet, which just earned 90 points Best Buy rating from Wine Enthusiasts. For more on all of that, just go to noblevines.com. You can also see where you can purchase Noble Vines. You must be 21 or over. Noble Vines, Napa and Manteca, California. Please drink responsibly. And we're so thankful to have them as a part of this show. And that kind of transitions us to Father's Day. So we can talk a little bit of Father's Day action. I guess, first of all, we kind of wanted to talk about our fathers, because when it comes to Father's Day, you have your father that you want to recognize and celebrate. If you're married, you also have your husband and you have kids, then they're a father too. So it's important, I think, to remember all of them on Father's Day. So we can just start with our fathers. If you want to talk a little bit about your sweet daddy and kind of what he meant to you and how you celebrate him on Father's Day now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Father's Day is harder now.
Yeah.
I mean, now that he's gone. But I think I always like take that day, and his birthday was last month, and so you just kind of reflect on what they meant to you, and what you hope your husband will be to your kids, what my son I hope will be to his children. For me, I was raised by my father. My parents divorced when I was 5. We lived with my mom, my sister and I did for 2 or 3 years, and then made the decision, kind of everyone, that it was it, that to live with my dad, my sister and I.
Yeah.
And so from the 4th grade on, my daddy raised my sister and I. And our mom is still a huge part of our lives. Always was, always has been, always will be. We're closer now than we've ever been. She was always a very present role, but when it came to our upbringing and what was the best situation for my sister and I, we kind of made the decision that the best decision was to live with him. And so for a man at that point in time, you're talking about 30 years ago, to raise 2 girls on his own was not something that happened at all.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so we had a really unique relationship, my sister and I did, with him. And I always tell people, my love of sports obviously comes from him. um we did all the traditional girl things, the stereotypical playing with Barbies, all that kind of stuff, but we did it while watching Cowboys games. And it just was, sports was just such a huge part of our bonding. And so that I credit him for kind of steering me in this direction, for the work ethic he taught me. He was a really chill parent, but when he was pissed, you knew it. Like, he
Yeah.
would always say, "I'll trust you until you give me a reason not to." So he gave us a lot of rope, partly because he had to, when we got older, because he was working full time, and there was stuff that we had to kind of fend for ourselves on. And so I admired that aspect of him, that he would trust us till we gave him a reason not to. And then when we gave him a reason not to, shit hit the fan. Like, it was not good. I remember
Yeah.
I always made great grades in school growing up. I made A's, occasional B. I mean, I was, the same with my sister. But one time I brought home a report card, and it had, so do you remember, I don't know how y'all graded, but like, it was, you got a U or an S, like
Yeah.
U was unsatisfactory, S was satisfactory, and then like E was excellent. And
Mm-hmm.
I brought home a U in citizenship,
Oh, wow.
unsatisfactory, for, guess what? Excessive talking.
No
And
way.
so I was, I mean, I hardly ever got grounded. He grounded me for 6 weeks until I got my next report card. And he's like, "You're grounded for 6 weeks, and you'll be grounded for 6 more weeks until you don't get a U. You have to get, until, if you get another U, you're grounded for another 6 weeks."
Wow.
And so he wasn't, I mean, he was a pretty chill parent, but he was serious about certain things. Like, he was like, "I don't care what, if you come home with a D, I'd rather you come home with a D than a U in citizenship. That you can control that.
Right.
Sometimes concepts are going to be hard for you to grasp, and I get that you're going to have trouble catching on to concepts and learning. That might be an issue." He was like, "But you can absolutely control your behavior, and this is unacceptable." And I that stuck with me forever. It was 6th grade. I'll never forget. And I just remember being mortified that I had disappointed this man that I cared so much about, and that I trusted so much, and that trusted me so much. And
Yeah.
and that stuck with me. So he was, I mean, he was a stud. He was, always cracking jokes. um I mean, I owe so much of who I am to the way that he taught me. And
Yeah.
and it sucks that he's
That's
gone.
awesome. Yeah. How long has it been, Em?
4 years.
4 years. And when I
Yeah.
asked how you celebrate him now, like, that's just kind of what I was wondering, is on Father's Day, do you just kind of like, do you do anything to just kind of honor his memory and think about him and celebrate him?
No, not really anything. On his birthday, we do a birthday cake, the kids and I do, and we
Yeah.
FaceTime with my sister and her kids and all that kind of stuff. So we do that on his birthday. On Father's Day, there's a letter that I wrote him. Gosh, it was like, I think it was like 96. I wrote him this
Yeah.
letter. and sent it to him, and he framed it and put it in his office. And when he died, my stepmother gave that to me, and so I'll read that.
Oh,
Or yeah,
oh.
so yeah, I didn't intend to
Well,
cry. We were talking
no,
about
well,
like
it's
using each other's
hard.
toothbrush. Yeah,
Well,
it's sad.
even when we were brainstorming about this podcast and like show episodes, I did write like I think it'd be good one day to do a show about grieving and just fight like how hard it is, because it's just something you have to put aside in your life and try to move forward. And it's something that is impossibly hard, you know, especially with somebody as special to you as your dad who raised you. So I thank you for sharing that story. And you know, it's a good time to take a step back and remember every dad, whether they're here or not here, and everything that they've done for you or for their kids. My dad, I was kind of lucky in that I had a dad and a stepdad. I look at it as being lucky. My parents got divorced when I was 9, and my mom remarried a couple of years later. And my stepdad is just amazing. He's helped me through so many things, like those really hard teenage years, and still helping me. I call him to, you know, my mom says he can fix anything but a broken heart. He's an engineer and he can like fix anything, you know, he's just so handy and he's just awesome. And I don't know what I'd do without him. That same goes for my dad. My dad is just one of the most laid back, like funny, like I feel like I get a lot of like just my sense of humor from him. He was a big tennis player. And I love playing tennis because of him. And he's just somebody that's really fun loving and just wants to like, he was always the one we'd go to for like fun. And we did get like, you know, the Wednesday nights and every other weekend with him. And those were always just like some of my favorite times. And he unfortunately he's struggling with Alzheimer's, which was something that I haven't talked about much, like anywhere on the ticket or anything. But he got early Alzheimer's in his 50s. He's 65 now, and he's just to the point where when I call him, like he doesn't really recognize me. I saw him 2 weeks ago or so, and he didn't really recognize me or Kelly and all that. So that's been really hard. We luckily have great family who's helping to take care of him. He has 3 older sisters, and they rotate taking care of him in shifts. He's living with his mom in Corpus Christi. My stepmom's still helping, but it was just too much for her to handle it all. So anyway, it's a good situation. He's with his mom and one of his sisters, and I tried. It's far. I wish I could see him more, but I can't say enough about like how wonderful of a person he is. My stepdad is, and the combination I think helped make me who I am. And it's just another shout out to like when people get divorced, it's not terrible. It can be really good things. I got a bonus mom and a bonus dad.
So what's the relationship like between your dad and your stepdad?
It's fine. It's good. It was always good. Like there was never anything, it was never tense or anything. Like I remember at my high school graduation, college graduation, everybody was there. Like I have a picture with both of them. And it was, my stepdad always did a really good job of like, you know, being, just kind and kind to my dad and not making anything weird for anybody. And my dad did the same. And he remarried not long after. After my mom got remarried and moved to Austin, and I loved my stepmom too. So it's all good. Like between everybody, I wish my dad was in a better state of mind because I feel like we have a lot of really good years left that I'm missing out on. But when I'm with him, we still, you know, can go hit the tennis ball around and have fun. And he's just awesome. So a shout out to him and all dads everywhere. So that kind of transitions to our husbands and dads. And I know we had our husbands on our show one day and we talked with them a little bit, but I just want to know a little bit more about like Mike, what kind of dad he is to your kids and maybe what you're thankful for about as Father's Day approaches.
So he's super hardworking, which the kids see that. And I feel like that's so important. His work ethic is off the charts. And so I'm so proud of how hard he works, how driven he is. He's like fiercely loyal to, you know, not only to his family, but his friends, people he cares about. You know, he's a good dad. I mean, he didn't have not that he didn't have a choice to be a good dad, but like when I went back to work when the kids were, when Henry was 6 months old, I went back to work and I was traveling and he was there with a newborn. And then when I had Hattie, he was there with a 2-year-old and a newborn. So there was no, he was has always been very hands-on. I mean, he changed the diapers. I mean, he did all the things. He did the sleep training. Like he was, I
Wow.
mean, and he didn't have a choice, but he also he didn't bitch about it. Like he wanted to be, that was important to him. And to me, when I think about how long it took me to find him and to find a husband, and how so much I would compare men to my dad, and they would always come up short. For me, the fact that I knew he was going to be so active and so hands-on, especially in those early years, because I think it's easy for a lot of guys to be like, yeah, I'll pick this up when they're
Oh yeah.
5. And I don't think I think it's more and more the way, our husbands are. But he embraced that. I mean, granted, has it been tough at times? Oh yes, like for sure. But he's never shied away from those things. And so I definitely appreciate that about him. Now, at the same time, like I talk about how, when I traveled and all that stuff, hands on, and he absolutely is. But I remember one time I was in Baltimore, and a game was about to start, and he calls me. He was driving the kids to Graham to stay with my dad and stepmom, and apparently Hattie had puked all over the car seat. And he pulls over on the side of the road and calls me, and I'm like, well, honey, I'm in Baltimore.
I can't help you.
And so I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like you're just gonna have to power through this, and you're gonna have to get her there and then hose it off. And so anyway, I called my dad and stepmom. I was like, just brace yourself. Mike's coming in hot with a puke kid and a puke car seat. And so anyway, they were ready with like the water hose and everything. And then I talked to him later that night, and he was like, yeah, I mean, I threw that car seat away. It was a goner. And I was like,
they're like $200.
Yes. I was like, you threw it away. He's like, yeah, I can get another one. I'm not messing with that. And I was
That's funny.
That's
such a dad move.
Such a dad move. Like I was like, you don't throw away a $300 car seat. Like, what are you doing? But then I was like,
I guess if he committed to buying a new one, like whatever.
If you're gonna replace it by the time I get home, then fine with me. But yeah, I mean, just little stuff like that cracks me up that are, and it's all very generalization, broad brush, all that kind of stuff. We're not saying all dads are like our husbands, whatever. We're just telling our stories. But that to me, I mean, sorry dads, but that's a total dad move. I'm sure he's not the only man who's thrown away a car seat when a kid's puked in it. But I thought, just little stuff like that's hilarious.
I kind of feel that way sometimes when my car gets really dirty after I get it cleaned and all that. But there's a point after a few years, I'm like, I just need a new car. That'll solve this problem. So maybe I'm more like Mike in that regard. By the way, does Hattie get car sick, or did she? Because Anna gets car sick. Yes. We drove to Plano a few weeks ago. It was right at the beginning of the quarantine, and it was like her first outing. I was meeting a friend to go on a walk. And she threw up on the way to Plano. I'm like, this girl can't ride in the car anymore now that we've been stuck at home for so long. That's the worst. It's the worst. Well, did she grow out of it?
It's gotten better. And now we do like Dramamine or whatever before we go on. Like if we're going on an extended road trip.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's better.
Just a little mom tip in there.
Exactly. So what about Kelly? What kind of dad is Kelly?
So I was I think it's funny, like when so much changes after you get married and have kids from when you're dating, right? Like when you're dating, you don't have any idea what kind of dad your husband is going to be. And I think it's so important to know what kind of parent they're going to be. And a lot of times it's just a surprise and you figure it out as you go. I was lucky because, and I look at it as being lucky because Kelly has a son who is 16, almost 17. So when I met him, he had a 7-year-old. And it was something that, was totally different for me to date somebody with a kid. And, some people would see it as a red flag or something. I never really did. I loved that I got to see him as a dad before we got married, and I committed to him. And I knew back then he was such an amazing dad. And it's obviously it continued with our kids now. And Isaac is such a good big brother. We get him here in Dallas as often as we can. He lives in Colorado. But when he's here, it's just amazing. We actually had him babysit for the first time, both kids last time he was here. I was like, this is perfect. Everyone should have a teenage stepson. It's brilliant. But no, Kelly sounds a lot like Mike, like obviously very hardworking with his schedule, which takes him away from the kids a lot. But when he's here, it's like all hands on deck. And my kids were both born in the summer when Kelly was off of work. So it worked out to where like Kelly was kind of the main caretaker oftentimes when I would go back to work. And so I thought it was really great. Like he got a couple months alone with both kids, but like he's just not afraid to get in there, change diapers, like, scold them if they need it. But he's also like so kind with them. And he's a really, really amazing dad. And I'm so thankful for that. Right now, my kids are like so obsessed with him because he's home, because the NHL has halted. And it's going to be interesting when he goes back to work, because they really they don't care for me right now. they just want him. So it's going to be interesting when he does go back to work. But no, he's awesome. He's an awesome dad, an awesome husband. And I'm glad, because I think I see a whole lot more of that than how it used to be, where dads are just really hands-on. And it's almost like you're splitting the load more, like closer to 50-50. I see that a lot now. And I know like our parents' generations and all that, they say, oh, my husband he just went to work and I did the kids and that was my job. And I love how it's really seems like people are sharing the load nowadays.
Well, and I think a lot of that's because so many more women are working now, and so there's really not, a choice. But I will say, like, my husband grew up like where his mom, she worked, she was a teacher, but she still did everything. Like she cooked all the meals, she, all that kind of stuff. And so it cracks me up. My best friend married Mike's best friend. We didn't become best friends until the boys grew up together. Mike and Jeff grew up together, and then Jeff married Lisa. Mike married me, and then Lisa and I became best friends.
Oh, how fun.
But those two boys grew up together, and they both grew up with like these moms that just like, they, and Nettie, my mother-in-law, will say, I coddled him a bit. He was taken care of, he was, all that kind of stuff. And, it's different with you. And that's okay. She's like, I love it. I love that, that he chose that, right? Like, he knew what he was getting into,
right?
I mean, it's not like he was married somebody that was going to whip up a casserole every night. Like, that's just not what I do.
No,
and so,
that's hard to do from the dugout.
It is. So anyway, I just think it's different how, a lot of people say you'll marry someone just like your mom, or you'll marry, all that kind of stuff, and how you see like the different dynamics. And even though, I'm definitely, I think his mother and I have a lot of the same characteristics as far as like just, the inside of things, maybe not necessarily with, how, what we,
your heart,
what we
probably
do per se, for sure. And so but it is interesting. And I always tell him, sometimes I do tell him, like when I cook another spare meal, that's like ground up turkey with
we need to have a spare meal cookbook that we can both contribute to.
Okay. The number one, and I've pulled it up multiple times, is you just saute, or whatever you call it, cook ground turkey, and then you put barbecue sauce in it, and then you wrap it up in tortillas. That's wow. Like, it's amazing. So anyway,
some sort of fancy
he'll be
turkey
like,
taco.
And I'll be like, oh, so we're having barbecue turkey tacos again. And I'm like, yeah. Remember, this is who you married. Like,
this is it. This is what you signed up for.
I know.
Okay. So Mom Game spare cookbook coming up.
Yes. Share your spare recipes with us, please.
Spare recipes. And I also want to put out the call for dads too. Like, yes. I love the name of our show, The Mom Game, but I feel like I've had people that have said like, oh, well, I'm a dad, can I listen? Or I don't have kids, can I listen? And of course, this is for everybody. And I really want to hear from more dads that can even like want to hear us talk about certain things, and get our perspective on dad stuff. So if you're listening, shoot us a tweet or a Facebook message. We're on Facebook now. We're on Instagram now. We're like taking over the social media world.
Taking it over.
We're taking it over. And we'll wrap things up. But real quick, because it is a momming and a sportsing show, just to touch on the sports side of things right now. It's been a tough week for baseball. I want to know how you've handled it. And like, I also want to know your gut feeling, if you think baseball's going to happen or not.
Yeah. I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster. Like, I got a text from an unnamed player's wife that does not play for the Rangers, that was like opening day July 10th, and I was like, what? And I was like, it's, this was like 2 or 3 days ago, and I was like, surely not. But I mean, this was coming from,
someone that would know.
Yeah, this guy's not a schlep. Like, it was, and so I was like, wow, how could this work? So anyway, I started texting, and then everyone's kind of like, maybe report July 10th. So then I'm like super optimistic going to bed on Sunday. Then I wake up on Monday, and then all shit hit the fan. And it's like, we're done talking, and Manfred's stalling, and I just can't. I almost don't even, I don't even seek it out anymore. I just check in. Before, I was like constantly refreshing my Twitter feed. Now I'm just like, I'm just going to sit back and wait.
Yeah, it's probably a roller coaster for your OCD as well, because you have to have everything in your life planned out.
Killing me.
And it's such a giant chunk of your life that's just open-ended.
Are we playing? Are we not? If we do play, what's my role going to be?
Yeah.
I mean, it's nutso. And then now you see the NBA where they've released all these, the parameters that these guys are going to have to be, that you're like, okay, now that we're getting close to nut cutting time, are they going to be cool with this? That's crazy.
Right. It's all fun and games till you see your rules that are like the same rules as like a 10-year-old at camp. Like, this is where you go from this time to this time, and then you go to the practice court, and then you go home, and then you stay in your hotel. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, and no one in. So it's like, our boy Junior Miller on the ticket keeps bringing up these guys to not have sex for.
That's what I've been thinking about too.
Like, what? That's
and maybe they haven't thought about that. Like, maybe when they first signed up, you think they do? Like, the second?
I mean, I thought about it. Like, what?
I did too.
No physical contact with anyone? No, I mean, sorry.
It's and it's the same for the NHL. Like, they're talking about doing the same idea. NBA did say, like, once you hit a certain round of the playoffs, then you could have family come. But I think they said, I was listening to this morning too, and Junior said like 50 days or so where you have no visitors. And the NHL is talking about the same thing. And you saw Roman Polak, one of the Dallas Stars, basically say, this isn't for me. Like, he was on the last year of an expiring contract, and his quote that was translated said, "This sounds like jail." And he's like, I'm not signing up for that. And Jim Nill was kind of like, we can't make anybody come back if they don't want to. So I think each person will have to weigh if it's worth it for them to get that paycheck. But you've also heard the NHL guys say, this is what the game needs. Like, this is our livelihood. This is our sport. We need the season to go on. If I've got to be like abstinent for a couple months, maybe they can do it. And then we'll see if they take out that aggression on the ice or on the court. And then we have like superhuman athletes all of a sudden with superpowers.
Could change the dynamic of every marriage in professional sports. So it's all a giant shit show. It continues to be a giant shit show. No telling where we'll be next week.
I know. So weird.
No telling what. But okay, so as I always say at the end, please, y'all, if you're listening, let us know. We want to hear from you. Like, we want to know, are we on the mark? Are we off the mark? What else do you want us to talk about? What topics do you want us to discuss? What guests do you want us to have? All that kind of stuff. Like we've said from the beginning, we want this to be a community. We want you guys to be able to interact with us. We want to be able to interact with you. So those of you that reach out, like on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we so appreciate it. So thank you for the feedback. And one more thing I want to mention. So next week, Thursday, June 25th, we are recording live at my Med Spa in Plano. But also, speaking of, this is the Sweet 16 sponsor episode, because we have another sponsor as well, Cutting Edge Cryo, who is hooking us up with some really cool treatments body wise. And so I have already started the cryo slimming on my midsection. And it's basically just this machine that you warm up your fat for 2 minutes, and then you freeze the fat cells until they die. And so it's like I was in there for like, I think it was almost 40 minutes. Yeah. And so I've had 2 treatments, and I will say I've noticed a difference. I lost 2.5 inches the first treatment and 1 3/4 inches the second treatment. I'm going every 2 weeks. So I'll have some pictures on my personal social media and then I'll put some on our Mom Game social media too, just to kind of show the results.
That's
But anyway,
awesome. That's magic. Yeah.
So it's kind of like there's other versions out there, but apparently this machine's like super kick ass. And yeah, he's a huge Rangers fan, the owner. And
cool.
so yeah, so he reached out and said, "Would you guys be interested in giving it a try?" And I was like, "Let's do it." And so I was a little skeptical going in. But now I'm all in. I can't wait for
You're
treatment
all
number 3.
in.
So we'll be bringing you more information about cutting edge cryo in the colony. And it's a bit of a trek from Fort Worth where I am, but I will say
a trek to lose 2 dress sizes.
I was like, I'm in for it.
Yeah,
So,
no kidding. I'll drive to freaking like California.
Yeah, every 2 weeks I'm blazing the trail to cutting edge cryo. So
awesome! I can't wait to try them too.
To them. Yeah. You're gonna because of the surgery you had to wait a little bit. So
I'm gonna heal up a little bit before I freeze my fat cells, but I can't wait to.
They're excited to get you in. So yeah, so we've got we're so excited. And if you know a business, or if you're a business and want to, I mean, we have
we'll try anything.
And we have we're willing to try anything. I mean, within reason. But yeah, we like, and we feel like all the sponsors that we have, we've experienced them, we've used them, we've, all that kind of stuff. And so that's important to us, that if you are a sponsor, and if you're listening and you're not a sponsor, and you're I hope we're presenting it in a genuine enough way where you don't feel like we're just cramming lines down your throat. So
anyway. I mean, losing weight, brushing your teeth, drinking wine, all these things, it's pretty much us. Like, so they're good fits with the Mom Game. We're excited. Yeah, we're excited to be at My Med Spa next Thursday. We'll tweet out all the details about that. And look, you have a gorgeous lake and some kids to attend to. So
I can't believe we've made it this long and the kids haven't totally hijacked the whole thing. So yeah,
I think it's brilliant what you're doing. It's amazing.
All right, Jules. Well, I'm glad you're good. I'll see
all
you
good.
In episode 17 at My Med Spa in Plano.
Sounds great.
Mom
Can't wait.
Out,
Mom Game out.
Mom Game out.